Hey, Melissa Lieberman here. I'm excited you're joining me for the Independent Consultants weekly stand up. And today we're going to focus on turning down opportunities. We focus a lot on how to create opportunities for you as an independent consultant. And today I want to talk about turning down opportunities because that's almost as equally as important so that you're protecting your capacity, you're creating and taking on business and other initiatives that you love and continuing to grow and scale your business in the direction you want it to head versus trying to cobble together whatever comes to you and make the best of it. So, today, as we talk about turning down opportunities, I wanted to share with you a couple of examples for myself and a few clients recently who have had to work through figuring out whether or not to turn down an opportunity. And then I'll share with you a 5-part framework that you can use to decide if you're going to turn down an opportunity or not. It's so important to go through this process of deciding definitively if whatever's coming across your desk or whatever you're pursuing is a definite hell yes, or if it's a no, versus assuming it's a yes and talking yourself out of it, or just assuming it's a no and without really investigating or figuring out why that is. So that's what I want to share with you today is a couple of examples, and then I'll give you this 5-part framework that you can leverage in your business as you decide whether or not to take on a new client engagement, whether or not to take on to offer an extension or a follow-on work to your existing client, whether or not you want to partner or team or subcontract or go through a marketplace. This framework can be used in so many different ways. So I can't wait to share it with you. But first, I thought I'd just share a couple of stories about, things that might get your thoughts, provoke your thoughts a little bit about opportunities that you might just assume should be a yes, and they actually require this level of investigation. So the first one that I'll share with you just on a personal note, I recently had someone approach me asking me to come on to their startup as a founder, help them build a coaching practice within their organization. And it would be an amazing complement between software that they were building and this more services based coaching and consulting arm that they were wanting to build. And at first, it got me so excited. I was really excited about this idea because it really marries a lot of my own background building a SaaS company with coaching that I love and building new things. It seemed like how amazing, how opportunistic, how incredible that this came to me. But as I started applying this framework that I'm going to share with you, I realized that it was actually a 110% no. So even though it seems so shiny and amazing and on the surface, I'll share with you why it was a no here in a moment by using this 5-part framework. And honestly, by saying no to this opportunity, it saved me probably a year or 2 years of taking a wrong path and then having to undo it and go back to where I was and start over again. So I'll share with you that 5-part framework in that, using my own personal example. I always love sharing my own examples of failure and learning and growth and that kind of thing with you. The next example I'll give you is I had a client who came to me and said, I have someone who's incredibly well known in my space, and they're asking me to come on and partner with them to create, kind of a consortium or industry type of an organization that would serve her ideal clients, get her name out there even more than it already is. And it seemed like such a no-brainer to figure out how to make this work, how to make this particular opportunity work for her because of all of those factors. And as we applied this 5-part framework that I'm going to share with you, it became increasingly obvious that this was a no. This was a hell no, I'm not doing this. And I really, really like my reasons. So that was her example of leveraging this 5-part framework that I'm going to share with you with something that felt so obvious. You might relate to that when someone who's really well known or connected in the space you work in the automatic, kind of intuition is like, I better go figure out how to make this work at almost any cost. And as you go through the 5-part framework for yourself, you realize that there's nothing that is so incredible or so so obvious that it's a yes without really going through and figuring out if that's the case or not. So helping to save you from that trap that so many of us as consultants fall into. I'm going to say yes and figure out how to do it. I'm going to say yes and figure out how to make this work. That's what we're great at doing as consultants. And so it becomes a trap for us as a business owner when we take that same thought process and apply it to the decisions we're making about how to allocate our resources in our business. And by resources, I mean your time and your mental energy, and in some cases, your money. The third example I just wanted to share with you, I had a client reach out to me actually this morning, and she told me, I just listened to the podcast about turning down opportunities. By the way, if you want to go, I'll put the link to that here. If you want to go listen, there's a episode out this week about turning down opportunities. So it'll give you even deeper than what I'm sharing with you in this shorter video today. But she emailed me and said, look, I just decided that I've got to have a minimum now in my business. I'm no longer taking on projects that are worth less than 50K in her example. So it's like it's setting those boundaries for yourself, really knowing what your line is and not saying yes to everything by default with that idea that you'll figure it out. I'm sure you would figure it out. But at what cost? At what cost to the capacity that you might have to really take on a client that is ideal for you and spend the time in that way? At what cost to you in terms of your mental energy and capacity when you're taking on everything and just figuring out how to make it work? So with that, I'm going to share with you this 5-part framework that will help you to decide if you're going to turn down a consulting opportunity or not. And by opportunity, again, just to remind you, what I'm talking about here is it could be a new client engagement. It could be a client that you went out and really cultivated the opportunity. Just because you're the one who went out and created that opportunity, it didn't come to you. Just because you went out and cultivated it doesn't mean that you have to say yes as you move through the process and learn more about their organization and what they want to accomplish. You can use this framework to decide if you're going to offer follow-on work or extensions to an existing client. Just because you're working for a client and quite frankly, maybe in the middle of kind of a bigger transformation, after you've finished an engagement, it doesn't mean that you're obligated to continue. This will help you figure out if you want to partner. Just because someone who's really well known in your space or someone who's got a great reputation or a really large network, just because they're approaching you doesn't mean that it's an automatic yes. Just because someone who has work and might bring you on as a subcontractor frequently approaches you, or your old boss approaches you, or the old CEO of something approaches you, doesn't mean that you have to say yes. So with that, let's talk about this 5-part framework to help you really slow down, no matter what the opportunity is, whether it's something big like I described to you, taking on being a founder of a company, or whether it's something more routine in your day to day. Let's go through this 5-part framework so you can really slow down and apply this to your business and be really thoughtful and purposeful about how you're using your business assets. And for you, your business asset is your time and your mental energy. And like I said, in some cases, investment. So with that, let's go through these 5 parts. The first is, number 1, test the opportunity against your business model. Ask yourself, is this aligned to my business plan? If this was for someone else's business, would I recommend it to them? Again, as I just was trying to decide if I wanted to go on as a partner with this organization, this has nothing to do with my business model. Now, does it mean that I can't change my business model? Absolutely not. But I really have to investigate. Am I in the place where I want to switch my business model? For me, the answer was no. For the client I was describing to you, going and being part of a consortium that supported the industry and the amount of time and energy and capacity that would take up, the answer was no. Doesn't mean it's no forever, but it was definitely no for now. So for you, ask yourself, does this align to my business model? And if not, just being really honest with yourself. No, it doesn't. And now what? Do I really want to change my business model to bring this kind of work on? Or am I fully committed to what I had already, decided I wanted to do? And I'm skipping ahead a little bit, so I'll leave it there. The second part of this framework is to ask your future self. Who's your future self? Your future self is the person, the version of you in 3 years, or put some distance, 3 years, 5 years, 2 years, whatever the number is for you. Put some distance from where you're at now and whatever struggles you might be going through. Or you're a business owner, you're going through struggles, I can assure you. And if you're not, that means you're not pushing yourself out of your envelope enough. So get some distance, create some distance between where you're at right now and the version of you who has already accomplished the goals. Maybe the goal is to add another 250K in revenue in the next year into your business. Maybe the goal is to switch from kind of, a lot of heavy lifting and delivery into more strategy and advisory. Whatever the goal is for you and the vision for your business, put yourself in the headspace of that version of you who's already accomplished that. And then what do you tell yourself? When you're a highly sought after consultant who's exceeding your revenue goals and has a lot of flexibility and sustainability and predictability and fulfillment, what would you say to yourself? That helps you to figure out, are you making this decision out of scarcity and fear, or is it really truly an aligned decision for you to move forward with whatever this opportunity is? The third question and part of this framework that you're going to want to ask yourself is, how am I feeling? How am I feeling as I'm making this decision? And how do I anticipate feeling after I've made the decision? Are you feeling pressured and you just want relief by saying yes? That's probably a good indicator that this isn't really you making a decision that's best for your business. It's you making a decision out of people pleasing and just want to be done with it and feel that sense of relief. Again, that's probably not going to lead you in the best direction for your business, right? Or on the flip side, do you feel calm and self-assured and excited for whatever the opportunity is? Ask yourself and really check in with not the part your logic, but the way you're feeling, and use that as a leading indicator for yourself to help steer yourself in the right direction, because you've got to override some of the your brain power. You're a smart person. You can talk yourself into anything. And so being able to leverage your emotions and your feelings and as a guide for you can be incredibly powerful if you figure out how to do that. The fourth is to be honest with yourself, this inner dialogue. I touched on it a minute ago, a little bit in number one. What is driving your decision to say yes? What is driving your decision to say no? Is it based off of I should, or hopefully this will help me, but I'm not exactly sure how. I'm just going to take a leap of faith to kind of get this off my plate. Is it based on people pleasing? I don't want to let someone so and so down. I don't want to risk damaging my reputation in this space, so I'm just going to do this. I can assure you, if you agree to something you truly don't want to do, and then you're struggling every week to figure out how to fit it in, that's much more damaging to your reputation than to say very clearly and succinctly to someone, I appreciate you approaching me with this opportunity. It's not fitting into my business at the moment, but I would love to revisit down the road if you're, when we're both in a different, when I might have the capacity to take it on. If you want to keep the door open, right? So being really honest with yourself about what the drivers are is incredibly important for you as a business owner. And then fifth, and sometimes I find this one to be the most important. If you do none of these, do this one, make it earn its spot. So many of us start with this assumption, right? I can figure things out. It's probably part of your self-identity as a consultant. And so we start with, this is a yes, and let me figure out if I'm going to talk myself out of it. Let me logic my way out of this if and decide if it's a no. I would recommend to you switching that up. Think about this in the sense of this is an everything that comes across my desk is a no until it earns a spot in the capacity that I have. Again, even brand new clients that you've been the one cultivating. Make it earn its spot. When you think about yourself as a consultant who's highly sought after, when you think about yourself as a consultant and a business owner who knows exactly what they're doing and how to create and maintain a predictable and sustainable business, you approach these decisions so much differently than when you think about yourself as the individual who's trying to figure it out, who's who's newer to consulting, who's not that great as a business owner. One of my clients called herself for a little while like the freelancing friend, right? When you think about yourself that way, you're going to make decisions so much differently than if you think about yourself as I am a successful, highly sought after consultant. Even if you're not fully sought after at the moment, thinking about yourself that way and operating that way and making these every single opportunity earn its spot, because as you well know, there's opportunity cost to you saying no, yes to something. And then 3 weeks later, the most ideal client, the most ideal opportunity comes across your desk, but now you've used up your capacity because you took on something that shouldn't have earned a spot. So that is the 5-part framework that I have to share with you today. I want to recommend to you a couple of things to take this work even further. Go grab go to the podcast and listen to this week's episode. It's at icgrowthpodcast.com, or you can find it in Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen. It's the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. And I go deeper into all of this on this week's episode. And you can really hear more examples and more detail on how to apply this to you and your business. And then also don't forget to go take, if you haven't already, the Independent Consultant Business Predictability Assessment. It's a 20, I think it's a 26, I wrote it, but 25 or 26 question assessment to really help you pinpoint the areas of your business that you want to work on as the highest priority to create that predictability in your business. So go take that. It's completely free. It'll give you that assessment as well as some really detailed next steps on what to do for wherever you might have scored lower on that assessment. So go grab that. And if you're in the US, have a wonderful holiday. Both, it's the kickoff to summer, but it's also a recognition of our military and the sacrifices they've made. So be sure to kind of think about it from those two angles. We always do as a military family. So with that, I will see you again next week. Take care.